being curious of like, oh, what can I achieve in the sport? I still feel like I have a lot of areas I can improve on. There's always something I can get better at, and there's still so much that I want to do in the sport, and so the mission's never done.
Well, thank you to the people who are here, tuned in. We're here chatting with Annie Frisbie, professional marathoner for PUMA, about what else would you talk about in a shoe store than shoes. So we're going to talk about how to pick shoes, how to think about rotating shoes, why you would think about rotating shoes on a weekly basis. But first, we're going to talk a little bit more about the art and act of running. Annie and I did a podcast earlier today, and she was talking about a concept that I love, which is curiosity. And I think curiosity is something that enables people to reach things that they might not have been able to reach before, or do more than they previously thought capable. Obviously, Annie is a professional athlete who's paid to perform and compete. And so the concept of focus on curiosity rather than I want to run a 2:19 marathon, or I want to be an Olympian, or I want to be the best. Like, these are all things that you can strive for as well. But when curiosity is what's driving, sometimes it leads to those things and much more. So did I summarize that right? Do you still believe that 6 hours later?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, not much has changed in 6 hours. I still believe that.
What is it about curiosity? What is it about the focus on achieving goals or striving towards goals in a curious way versus more of a outcome-oriented way? Why does it work for you?
Yeah, it works for me, I think, just through trial and error. Like, I've definitely gone the route of focusing on just PRs or just hitting a certain place, or, of course, I'm a very goal-oriented person, but I think going at it from the perspective of, just the cliche, enjoying the process and doing the little things day in and day out, it will lead to that success. And I think being curious of like, oh, what can I achieve in the sport? I still feel like I have a lot of areas I can improve on. There's always something I can get better at, and there's still so much that I want to do in the sport. And so, it's never, like, the mission's never done. So the curiosity comes from that of like, okay, what can I do next?
So how do you set goals while staying curious, but also putting something on the calendar and saying, this is what I want to do here?
Yeah, I feel like that for me is putting something on the calendar is usually the first step. And then I will usually have a goal in the back of my mind, but I really won't talk about it much. I'll usually just keep it to myself, and then, really just do, like I said, the day in, day out things, and do everything I need to feel my best and perform my best on race day. And, that even if a goal is super ambitious, what I do on the day-to-day doesn't really change. And, doing all those little things, of course, doing my runs, yep. All the recovery things, those add up for a really good whole build and a really good race. So the goal doesn't change like what I'm going to do in training necessarily.
Makes sense. Thanks for indulging me on that. It's a topic that I love talking about, I love sharing, and I think it's a huge unlock, not just for professional runners, but even more so potentially for amateur runners who may often put a goal on a calendar and put a time attached to the goal and put a lot of weight in that number and measure success or failure based on this arbitrary number that we as a running community have decided a 3 is really important, or a 2 is really important, or a 5 is really important. But like, what happens if you hit that time plus a half second? Like, my mile PR is 5:00.9. Like, am I that much of a better runner if I do 4:59.9? Like, no. But do I feel totally different about that outcome? Probably. So it's just really interesting how we contextualize based on these numbers versus a focus on the process.
Yeah, and it is a numbers sport. Like, it's, you compare yourself to your PR, other athletes around you, all those things. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, it's a bad thing if it starts to drive you crazy
Right.
and really starts to hinder your performance. I think it's good to have those sort of marks on the horizon. And, once you achieve that goal, then it's fun to set another sort of bar for yourself. Like, okay, what can I achieve next? But just because you have a specific number in mind doesn't mean you need to obsess over it, I guess, or have that be what you're thinking about or visualizing every day. A lot of times if you're, at least for me personally, if I'm entering a race, more open-minded with, how it could go, just a little bit looser going into a race, it will lead to a fast time. If it's not that you don't care as much, it's more you're just going in with a more relaxed mindset, and that will lead to a good time usually. Or if it doesn't, that's just around the corner.
Makes sense. Talking about things that it's okay to care a lot about, shoes. We're surrounded by tons of them. People love talking about them. I've read some research that suggests that rotating your shoes on a regular basis leads to a reduction in injury risk. If anyone's interested in that, you can Google it. I don't know the specific studies to reference, but it's definitely at this point something that the running community has agreed on and research has agreed on. So let's talk about shoe rotation. How do you think about what feels good or what shoe to wear when? So easy runs versus workouts versus long runs. How are you thinking about breaking that down?
Yeah, for easy runs and for long runs, I'm wearing a more cushiony shoe. For just regular easy miles, I'm usually wearing the PUMA Forever runs. And then sometimes in the afternoons, if I have a double, I'll wear the new Velocities. And so for me, the trainer shoes are really important to just have more cushion and just feel good on your feet. Does not matter if they feel slow. That's not the point of easy recovery day shoes. So I wear those for easy days, and then for workouts, I'll wear the Fast R3s or the Deviate Elite 3s. Those are great for any workout, honestly, and that's what I wear in races too.
Besides coming into a store like a Fleet Feet and asking somebody who works here, what should I run in? How do you make decisions about, like, this shoe feels good to me? Like, what is feels good? What does that mean? And for someone who's listening, how can they think about what they're putting on their feet in a more streamlined manner?
Yeah, I guess feels good is so different for everyone. So like in a place like Fleet Feet, I feel like all the workers here are going to be very knowledgeable and probably look at how you run or how you walk and know like what shoe is probably right for you. And maybe it's not going to be correct 100% of the time, but way closer than just picking a random shoe off the shelf. But then I always think it's really important to use it in training. So usually, myself, I feel like I can tell if a shoe is right or wrong for me after a couple days, for sure, a week. And, from there, it's like, okay, I either love the shoe because it just feels natural, or maybe I need to think about trying something else. So trying it in practice, I would say, is like the true test.
My barometer is if you can feel it. Like if you can't feel a shoe, it's good for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'll notice it.
One thing you said earlier in the podcast you did was you wear trainers for long runs. Why do you do that, and do you think it helps with a reduction in injury risk?
Yeah, I try to wear my carbon-plated shoes as little as possible, really only for workouts and for races, because of course they feel amazing and they feel fast, but wearing them too much can lead to injuries. So trying to minimize that as much as possible. And long runs, it's, sometimes we're going easy pace anyway, so it just makes sense to wear trainers. But even for like a long run workout, a lot of the times we'll do still trainers just because it's a lot of time on your feet. And honestly, when you do all that mileage in a trainer, it feels even better when you do jump back to the racing shoes, and it's a more noticeable difference, and definitely feel that pep just a little bit more.
Cool. Is there anything else you want people to know about shoes?
Shoes. I think, with PUMA specifically, it's been quite the journey of how far they've come. I feel like the latest Fast R3s, and then, even the latest Velocity 4s, it's a huge improvement every single time. So yeah, I just can't sing their praises enough.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Annie. Thank you, Fleet Feet. Thank you, Boulderthon, and everyone else who's here. We're going to do a little raffle trivia giveaway. Shocks is a sponsor of Boulderthon. You can also buy Shocks here at Fleet Feet. You can also buy it online with a code from my podcast if you're interested as well. The question for whoever's going to win this pair of Shocks, so it's like a bone conduction, so it doesn't go in your ear. It's a bit safer than having something in your ear on trails or on the road if it's busy or there's traffic or people or whatnot. What year did Annie make her marathon debut? It's within the last 5 years. There are only 5 options. Nailed it. Congrats. What state in the Midwest does she live and train in? For a pair of Tifosis, which you can also buy here at Fleet Feet. Sunglasses. State in the Midwest. Nailed it.
Yes.
To the dog whisperer. Thank you, everyone.